but it's not reporting in progress.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. Because of one of them.
So you're, it's a replacement. One of these numbers is wrong. Wherever you want to be, rather. This is okay. I can't turn the other one out.
So,
The other one's two sides.
Probably what they're doing is they're extending it.
Yeah. Oh, no, that really came from the lips.
That's what.
So grab your name and place, Crystal, and your book. But it is live, right?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Did we vote yet?
No, we're gonna start. I know you're anxious. Whoever is online.
So it doesn't directly replace it with metals.
No,
So
yeah. Just
Gotcha.
throw it there.
Yes.
No, you can use that one. Or you- oh, did you get a book?
I did. That's okay, where's that? Okay. Oh, they were sitting there.
Christie's online, so I think that's it.
Is that Richard?
And Richard, yeah, and then something I just hear that.
What do you need for a roll call? Diane?
Yeah. When you do the roll call, you're gonna do the roll call on, board members and budget.
Okay.
And, there's
You
your
roster.
brother.
Okay. All right, I have 6:03, so let's go ahead and call to order. If you join me for flag salute.
United States of America and to the republic which is one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us this very warm afternoon. We'll go ahead and do roll call. Do you need it segregated or can I just go around the room?
You can go around the room. There are two sections that do a roll call for the budget as well, but
Okay,
it doesn't really matter.
okay. Ricardo? Here. Emily? Here. Mike? Here. Brent? Here. Heidi? Here. Crystal?
Here.
Richard?
Here.
And somebody said Christy was online.
Yeah.
So, Christy? Maybe not. Maybe she's muted.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
Thanks, Christy. Bill? Here. And myself. So you have a really nice one tonight.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so with that, I will turn the chair or the gavel over to
Elect a budget.
yeah, the budget committee members to do their org or reorg.
So if you look at page 6, you need to elect a committee chair, like 4 of you. I think anybody can elect.
Everybody.
Everybody votes, so everybody can elect.
Does it go to past president to preside over that? Sure, or past chair.
Yeah.
So why don't you go ahead and take it, because you were chair last year, right?
Yeah, so
Just ask for nominations.
any nominations to chair the budget committee, right?
You want to do it, Mike?
I can't hear her.
Oh,
I don't know what she said.
oh, oh, yeah. You're nominating the budget chair. Chair for the budget, chairman for the budget.
Chairman for the budget.
Preside
Sure.
over the meeting.
Pardon?
Yeah.
Yes,
Do you want to do it?
but gosh, it's a committee of three.
No, I'm just trying to
Committee of
speed things
10.
up
Pardon?
10 of us.
for all, the whole room,
There's 10 of
tonight, run the
The chair
meeting.
tonight? No,
Yeah.
I can't hear well enough to
Okay,
do that.
okay.
I have them on volume now. And I didn't hear her.
I'll nominate Bill Groff.
What?
Somebody
Okay,
needs to sign.
I second the motion.
Have a motion a second. Any discussion?
I don't know, oh, maybe, did you want to do it again? Sorry.
Can you, I didn't hear the full motion. Can you restate it, please? I'm sorry.
So the motion was to nominate, Heidi nominated Bill Groff to be the budget committee chair. And,
Brett second.
oh, sorry, and Brett seconded.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Any other clarifications or questions? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. I'll do it by acclamation. So all those in favor, please say aye.
Bye.
Opposed?
Okay, at this
You're
point,
up.
then I will take over the meeting. Thank you, Chair. Okay, so we're at 2C. We jump right in and get going with the superintendent's budget message from Ginger Redley. Superintendent.
Starts on page 12 of your budget thing, and the numbers are really small, I'm sorry. We worked for 2 hours getting numbers on this thing. I gave up. Okay, it's my pleasure to present the budget committee, the proposed budget for 2023-24. This message is intended to provide a summary of the proposed budget and how this budget differs from the prior year. State School Fund. The budget is built on the assumption that the state of Oregon will provide the North Marion School District with its share of a state school fund of $9.9 billion, an amount close to last year for the student investment account and a fully funded high school success act, 1998. At this writing, the legislative session is not over, and the new state revenue forecast is due out May 17, 2023. The state school fund amount could change for the better once this information is received. Enrollment. We saw declining enrollment again in 2022-23, and we are experiencing this trend. We are expecting this trend to continue for the 2023-24 school year. This reduction in students has created a degree of uncertainty in the budgeting process. When preparing for each new year, we forecast from the current year's enrollment data in order to project enrollment, staff levels, and budget allocations needed for the next year. For the 2023-24 school year, we assume all currently enrolled students will return except, of course, our seniors. We are estimating kindergarten enrollment to be less than 2022-23. This brings our estimated enrollment to 1,675, the lowest level of students North Marion School District has served since the 1997-98 school year. There is a fail-safe formula built into the state school fund that provides funding based on the current or prior year average daily membership weight, or ADMW, whichever is higher. We expect to be funded at this year's 2022-23 ADMW level. Negotiations. For the first time in years, we have finalized contracts with both unions. This budget was built with the agreed upon cost of living adjustments and insurance caps. Student investment account. This budget includes the student investment account allocation of $1.452 million for the 2023-24 year, which is slightly lower than the $1.466 million that we were allocated for 2022-23. This funding will be spent mainly on personnel, English language development teachers, behavior specialists, counselors, a K-2 teacher, family liaison, and an interpreter translator, a 0.5 math coach, and director of equity, inclusion, and title programs. The only other large purpose will be for curriculum adoption materials. Other funding. Title grants, IDEA, and ESSER funding saw little change from the 2022-23. We will continue to receive funds from HB 3499 program for improving ELD student outcomes. These funds also support staffing in the ELD position. Changes to our general fund budget as compared to last year for this proposed budget are briefly summarized below. Revenue. This is the first year of the biennium. Our state school fund anticipated revenue is projected to be approximately $200,000 more than what we anticipate we will receive for 2022-23. Personnel costs and expenditures. Approximately 79% of the budget is dedicated to personnel costs. Each year, the roll-up cost of personnel is normally the largest increase in the budget. Pay scales for staff are based on yearly step increases, which represent a 2 to 5% increase in pay. Some staff have reached the top of the pay schedule and receive longevity pay annually. In addition, unions negotiate additional raises known as cost of living adjustments and additions to their benefit package, which add to the overall cost of personnel. While budgeted costs for personnel for all funds have gone up by $1.324 million, the general fund does not have the capacity to absorb these costs. More staff will be paid out of other funds in this budget than in the prior year. This is a concern that will be addressed next year as the funding stream for some of these funds will dry up in 2024. Educational materials. This year's budget does not allocate money for curriculum adoption as there is no capacity to do so. As mentioned before, the SIA funds will cover curriculum adoption costs. Technology. The investment the district has made in providing technology to its students and staff is significant. Not unlike any other item, repairs and replacements must be planned for, budgets allocated so students and staff will continue to do their work in technology-rich environments. ESSER dollars have helped and will continue to help with technology needs for students and staff. Emergency connectivity funds are funded by the federal government and will be used for allowed technology needs. Financial policy. The district continues to run on a modified accrual basis for accounting. The budget document presented today and adopted with any modifications in June becomes the financial plan of the district for the 2023 year. Financial transparency. The district places annual audits and yearly budgets on their website. Monthly revenue and expense reports are included in regular school board meetings. Bond construction update. We are almost at the finish line with very few items remaining to complete the bond work. We expect to replace 2 roofs and complete the security projects, if not finished by June 30th during this budget cycle. In closing, we thank the Budget Committee, the members of the North Marion School Board, and the community for helping us provide the allocation of resources necessary to help all students achieve their potential. As we settle into a new normal, our staff has and will continue to provide high-quality educational experience. We thank everyone for their hard work and dedication. Respectfully submitted, Ginger Redlinger, Superintendent, North Marion School District Number 15.
Great, thank you, Superintendent Redlinger. Slightly synonym in this context. All right, we will move on to deliberations, which is item 2B of the proposed budget. This will be delivered by Business Manager Linda Murray and Superintendent Ginger Redlinger.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming. It's cooler in here than outside, I guess, right? I gave you a page to replace, so we got that taken care of. Let's just start. Well, first of all, do any of you have any questions on anything, or do you want to wait and go through them as I get to them, or?
I do have about 5 questions, but I don't know if you want them up front or you want to talk about them in there. Not on numbers, I was just having questions like where I can find in the budget.
Oh, okay. Let's wait till the end,
That's
because maybe I'll answer it as we go.
All right.
Okay. Page 9 of this document is not something we resolved today. That is when we're adopting, just threw the page in there because I had it done. It could change between now and June. So I just wanted to mention that. Let's go to page 16 where we have staffing and enrollment. I like the graph that kind of gives you an idea of where we're at, and, you know, it kind of has been following the same trends, and keeping the same distance between licensed and classified for many years. But it gives you an idea of our enrollment for the last, about 10 years, and then the staffing for that enrollment. The graph that goes with it gives you a 5-year look of what has changed by function, and I have written next to the function like 111 is primary instruction. So that's helpful if you want to go through and see where changes have been. If there's any questions on that page, yes.
Can you explain what supervisory?
Yeah, I'm a supervisory. So is Lori Gamboa, and I believe, maybe it's Greg, Dave, and
You're not confidential.
I'm confidential. I'm in one of those. I'm in confidential like that. Let me look. I'm in confidential. Yes. And then we have Lori Gamboa and Greg and Big Schultz.
Okay.
There's other confidential people though. Yeah. Let's flip to page. Well, first of all, I wanted to say one thing about the totals on the enrollment or on the staffing. So the staffing has gone down, but it doesn't show it's gone down because we added the Empowered to Work program back at the high school, and that's 3 staff members. So you add 3, but we really didn't add 3 at the high school. That program's going to open back up. We had students going to Silverton this year, and they won't be going there next year, and they expect to have 6 or 7 students in that program. That all could change by the beginning of the year, but that's where they're at. And we also budgeted for 1 more in our preschool. We had, we're full with 1 person. 1 person can handle 20 total kids, 10 in the morning and 10 in the afternoon. And we have more that want to come in. So if we can get about 10 for morning or afternoon, we'll either add a full staff member or a half staff member. So we budgeted for 1 in case, but there's money that comes with that. So it would be just about a wash if we do add another person. So just wanted to explain why it looks a little different, even though we are down some. Another thing that, you know, I'm thinking about for future years of not doing this by Fund 100 and other funds, because so many of our staff now come out of like SIA and Measure 98 and like that. So maybe we just should do it by function. So it gives you a better idea of how many people are in that function. So I may make that change next year, but then you won't have any comparables because it will look so different. Let's go to page 26. That is general fund revenue. And I just wanted to call out the line 26 at the very bottom. And these numbers don't go in order because I hid some columns that no longer had information in them, but then I forgot to renumber my numbers. The resources beginning fund balance is also this year's ending fund balance. And in the last week or so, we've gotten 3 more estimates from the state on 21-22 and 22-23. So we've got another 230 some thousand for 22-23 and another 124,000, I think it is, for 21-22. The main reason for that is back in 2021, the legislature passed some amendment to Senate Bill 743, which had to do with virtual charter schools and their enrollment. So they were trying to level out what would happen in 21-22 and 22-23, only those 2 years. So that if you had a charter school in your district and all these kids went to the charter school and you didn't have your enrollment, it wouldn't kill either the charter school or the district. And so that has leveled out now, and they did all this calculation and it changed. A lot of charter schools got less money and a lot of districts got more. So it's made a big change, but that's mainly where we got more money. So and overall it made the ADMW for the state go down again. So that's, I just wanted to point that out. That's another reason why we may have a change in how this is allocated, but it shouldn't be much of a change because we do need to remember We have $500,000 that are paid out of ESSER, and that's going away September 3rd, 2024. So we kind of need to think about how we're going to pay for that staff if we're keeping them. So that extra money is good for us at this moment. The other thing that we don't know is our enrollment and where we'll land with that enrollment. So if we do make any changes, we may say, let's budget this or that, but we may not make that call or push that button until at least October 1 when we see our enrollment, if we do anything differently. Page 33 is the general fund expense summary. And that's kind of a good little, I think it's 33. Hold on. Yeah, it gives you the 5-year comparison for expenses, kind of something good to look at. If you want to kind of see where we're at, it also gives you the FTE for those functions also across the board. So it gives you a good idea. Again, I'm thinking about making this whole and not separating it out, but you'll see, that will be time consuming, but I'll think about it. Now turn to page 36. That's our expenditure summary. To look at 3 years, we have actual numbers for 21-22, which remember was still a little bit COVID-y. And then you have the adopted expenses for 22-23, and then what we're proposing tonight. I just always like to give a good idea of most of our money goes to salaries. Then you look at the larger purchase services down below. If you look at the middle column, 22-23, electricity, natural gas, phone, substitutes, and transportation. Transportation to date is 1.24, and I haven't paid for April, I don't think, so it's probably going to trend at about what I have. But our subs are up to 406,000 this year, and that's because we weren't able to hire all of the staff we tried to hire, and so our sub costs go up. That could happen again in this year. We have positions that we're posting. If they don't get filled, we're going to need more subs. So the cost is in the budget, but it might be right now as an FTE, whereas we might spend it as a substitute cost. So I just wanted you guys to be sure you understood that when if we were to compare this sheet next year and see, well, gee, we way overspent subs, that's our reason. Let's jump to page 163, way back there for our ESSER 225 is the fund number.
Somebody just repeat
163. So this is the one where we moved about $500,000 worth of salaries over here. I think last year had been 150 to 200, but we moved a bunch over here to balance the budget. But I also wanted to point out on that page, on page 165, you'll see capital outlay of 1.2 million. That is the HVAC that we're trying to do at the intermediate school. And so we actually have a project manager for that right now. They are hoping to put the bid out on the street the 17th in 2 days. So it looks like they're going to make that. It's ready to go out. And so hopefully that project will get going and get done this year. I have faith in the company that we're using. The other big thing that we're doing, I'll save it for that. Let's go to page 176 to 185, which is our SIA. So I put in a new little graph this year because some of my cohorts, my peers are doing that. I better up my game. Because we all compare each other's budgets. It kind of gives you a nice visual of how the money's been spent since we were basically fully funded in the 21-22 school year, and gives you an idea of what just about like general fund, most of your money is spent on salaries and associated payroll costs. So it gives you a good idea of what that looks like. We fund quite a few staff out of this now, and then we buy our curriculum here. The other one I put a new little graph in is page 220, and that's for this one. That's really the only reason I'm pointing this out is you have another graph. And that's your measure 98. That's mostly used for things at the high school. It's the same idea. We use a lot of it for money, but we also pay for Willamette Academy 220 to 224. This money is funded by, I want to say corporate activity funds. No,
98, no.
no, SIA.
SIA.
is funded by, yeah, SIA is fully funded by that. This is fully funded this year. This is lottery and something else. But this is fully funded this year, whereas SIA, the one I looked at, I told you before, I told you it was down a little bit. The governor's budget and the Ways and Means budget are not the same, and we still don't know what that number will be for SIA. We don't. It could go up, it could go down, so we're waiting to see. If that's the case, we may need to shift something out of that. On page 237 is the final little bit of the bond. So that's capital projects fund 400. So we want to pay for 2 roofs, and we actually have a project manager for that now. And they came out and looked at the roofs today. The one has a tarp on it that over the commons in gym 3 at the high school, and the other one is the wrestling area. And the wrestling area has more issues than just needing a roof. If you're going to put a new roof, it has to have insulation. It has no insulation. If you're going to insulate the ceiling, you need to insulate all the walls in the wrestling room, or you're going to have sweat. So it could turn into a bigger project than what we can afford. But with what we have left with our construction excise, our bond, and then we have money in construction excise tax, we're hoping to be able to complete both of those projects. Between those two, we have about $700,000. We'll see what happens and then we'll go with that. But hopefully we can move along and get it done. We actually, they went up on the roof today, and we actually have some shingles actually blown off clear to the plywood on the commons. So probably time to get that one back. So maintenance is going to repair it for now until we can get the job done, because we could have another good rain before we get it done. We'll see if we can get that done. There's a couple other projects that our staff has been throwing around that they wouldn't mind starting on, and that is the middle school walking track, which has been talked about for, I don't know, 15 years. And then there's some money in the middle school student body account. There's also the kindergarten preschool would like new playground equipment. If we don't use up all the money in the bond, we could use some bond money for that one, because playgrounds were included in the bond. And then the other thing is, you've already heard the presentation for soccer fields. If we could help fund any of that, I think we could use the bucket of money out of construction next system. So that's all I have. Questions?
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
So I was on the high school accreditation committee here. We were interviewed, I think, last month. The biggest concern was security. That was what the groups, and so when I look at 2115, that's what it says right here on page. Can't read that. 2531, 2115, the student safety campus monitor.
2115. What page are you on?
31.
Let me go. Support services in 2540 is where we have always put the safety
Okay.
person. So that's where we have one budget.
Okay, so then
And-
that would be why then I don't see on page 33,
and
no,
TV.
2115. Okay,
Mhm.
so what did you say it was again?
It's 2540. And if you look on the staffing, it's in the confidential section. Our security person is a confidential input. So
Operation and maintenance of plant services.
Okay,
mhm. If you read the detail in the state,
33.
33.
in what the ODE says you should put in there, that's part of it. Safety and security is also in there. So if you look on page, I don't know what page this is. I don't remember. Page 17 under the confidential column, you'll see under 2540 plant safety. There's one confidential and one supervisor. One of them is our safety person and one of them is our maintenance director.
Well, that would be why then I don't see.
Yeah,
that in correspondence.
yeah.
And then my second question is, when we look at page 33,
Mhm.
and I don't know, maybe you can, I look at the FTE, I see primary, intermediate schools going down to or middle school is going down to students with disabilities is going down 4, but counselors, and I know we've added one at the high school, like a psychologist, I think, so I'm assuming that's where that it's +2. I just am more curious why, like, I know our head count's going down, I understand that slightly, but just seems
Most
like
of it
a
is-
lot of,
Most of it is because we are moving people from general fund to grant funds, because we couldn't.
so this doesn't capture head count moving to grant funds?
Right, so this first page,
Uh-huh.
page 33 is general fund. Okay,
Right,
and then the next side is proposed for funds by 100, 200, 300, 400.
yeah, so it's going
So
up
that,
3,
that gives you where you're. That's
okay,
part
so
of
it's
it.
0.65 going down instead, okay.
Right, so it's
That
a,
answers
it's a
it.
difference
Okay.
in moving, and that's why I talked about maybe next year just putting it all as one.
One, yeah.
Maybe it's time to just say, we need to look at this as a whole budget, not just the general fund. And
So-
I think it would be easier for this time.
So office of principal, because is that the hiring of like a couple of the interns, or not interns, the interim principals we had at the
That's
high school, Jensen, and I can't remember the name of the one.
Butter. Yeah, so office of the principals, all your principals, vice principals, the interns, and then all of your office staff, the secretaries.
Okay,
Come out of that too. Anything else?
sorry, I just,
No, you're
yeah,
fine.
I just know security was such a hot topic when we
Mhm.
talked.
Yeah.
In that meeting, that I just wanna make sure it's captured, because I feel like, I mean, you know, we all know,
We know.
it's a big thing, and I just feel like right now we don't have someone here. I mean, I know we do, but it just, I know the community's presence from someone from the community doesn't feel like it's really security, like we have had in the past years ago. So anyways, I just wanted to make sure it's captured, because it's a hot topic.
So Miss Mitch is back.
What was that?
Miss Mitch is back. We're hoping we might see him like 10.
It's my turn? Yes, unless someone else. or we could go-
Yeah, I'm sorry, I took over, Chris,
No,
I'm sorry.
hi.
I can share my questions. Do we still have longevity pay
Yeah, for classified staff.
classified stuff
Mhm.
only?
Yeah, we don't have it for licensed any longer.
Something I keep hearing complaints about is the primary school music teacher.
That's posted.
Okay, so that's a position we're keeping?
Uh-huh. Yeah, so this year, the person was out on leave
Uh-huh.
for the year. And they couldn't, they had it posted and they didn't get any takers, so then they posted it as an enrichment coordinator. And they finally got someone for a little while, and then that person decided that wasn't the gig for her. And so that. So, yeah, so it's posted, it's in the budget to have a music teacher back.
Perfect. And then I don't see the 0.5 communications coordinator where we had approved as a board a 0.5 communications. We got Jillian for 1.0, but then I do not, since she left, I don't see a
It is
0.5
not-
in here.
It is not in the budget. Yeah. That was a cut that was made early on, when the four of us had me. There are other ways, Crystal, of getting that done. There's, the ESD offers, communications on a contracted basis, so many hours per month or something like that. But I don't know what the new superintendent wanted, yeah.
Okay. What is the actual role of the math coach? Like, I see math coach in here, but I haven't, like, it's an
That's a
addition.
person who has been helping out with math at the middle school level.
Do we have it in the budget to fund the mid-year primary school funding of the math curriculum that was talked about last board meeting?
Yeah, all curriculums coming out, that's.
So even if it, we'll still have enough for them to do the primary school mid-year.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I'm assuming that's being set aside as a block to do all
Yeah.
four schools.
So the SIA curriculum has just been rolling, so we didn't get all of the ELA bought the first year. And then, so then we went into, no, I think we started with social studies, and that didn't quite get all bought. But then you started buying that, and then you started buying ELA, didn't get all that bought, so then you started, it's all just rolling into the next year. So the primary school, I believe, will be bought January-ish, so that will come out of the SIA, and then we'll roll into science, I believe is our next option.
Okay, awesome. And then I did have one concern about our drop for our programs for students with mental disabilities. We usually are at 8 and we're going to 5 this year.
So what page are you looking at, Crystal? Do you know? Is that the 33?
No, this is page 17.
Okay,
It's staffing FTE.
I think my note's gonna tell me to look at other funds, that it went to 212, but let me see.
I assume so, but I just want to double check.
Page 17, you're talking about 1220 and 1250?
Yeah,
Yeah. So the classified went way up in went up in 1250, the license stayed the same. 1220 went down with licensed and down one with classified. But if I look at my notes on that. C 212 and 1250, 1220. So yes, so I was able to budget some more staff out of 212 this year, which is an IDEA grant.
okay, excellent. So if we're looking, so they will have close to the same amount as they had
Close if
last
not
year?
the same.
Same?
Yeah.
And then I
We can
also,
get them higher.
yeah, that is always the trick, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then I did also have the question about the office of the principal, like Emily did, because I see here we went from 7 in 22-23 to 8 for next year.
So last year, for the 22-23 budget, we did not budget for 2 interim positions.
Okay.
So this year, they are in the budget, but we are down. We don't have a chief of staff and a superintendent, we just have a superintendent in this budget.
I think that's all I had. I don't know how to make those notes.
Yes,
Oh, go ahead.
With the potential fewer students, is there a chance our transportation will cost? And is transportation paid by the federal government or the state?
transportation is paid by us, and then we get 70% reimbursed of the home to school. We don't get the 70% of athletics or
Okay.
that kind of stuff, but we get 70% of the big chunk of it.
And when I see the buses, there's nobody on them. Is there a possibility the bus company could unify their routes better, save us substantially?
I think as the year goes on, you have fewer and fewer riders. But they do look at routes at the beginning of every year, take off the kids that moved out, put on the kids that do, and then go from there. It's something that they look at quite once a year at least.
Do you ever see credit from them? Look at it.
No, they bill me by bus.
So
So
by the month.
they bill me, so if I have 14 routes for 18 days, that's how I get billed.
So, okay, so we
So
don't.
It does save if you don't have every route running, like they were short a driver this year and they didn't have every route running.
Yeah, they consolidate 5 and 12. We get
Yeah.
those notes a lot.
Yeah.
So then it makes you think though, can you just consolidate 5 and 12 permanently?
But we do have in our contract that the kids can't be on the bus for more than 50 minutes. So there's a lot to look at, not just,
Yeah.
here we go,
15 minutes?
50, 50.
Oh, 50.
Yeah.
So you're perfect.
Yeah, I have a husband about like this, so no problem. About the third time, I will get mad. Voice and.
I got one of those at home.
Oh, let's look forward.
Yeah, trust me.
And I watch TV without hearing anything. So save the marriage. The roofs weren't completed. Why?
We didn't get the RFP out there. We couldn't get someone to get on that job. We have it ready to go now.
And we have a contractor, and is the price
The
up?
RFP will go out. Don't know if we'll be able to afford it.
Okay,
Yeah.
and is there any plan for the property we own that is just maintenance problems now?
Yes, the board approved a couple months ago for the property that was the Johnston property to be made into 2 soccer practice fields. So that will be our next big jump. We have no plans yet for the,
So that's a pretty good budget for 2 soccer fields, because you mentioned drainage and
yes,
irrigation.
there's a group that's fundraising and getting going on and working on it. I just want to be able to say, if, okay, they're short $5,000 to get the irrigation in, can the district help? And I would think that's where we would go with the construction.
So you
exercise.
potentially could help.
We potentially could help. I really want my roofs done though before I say that.
And what organizations,
Absolutely. Yeah.
what organization's doing this?
It's a
Community, just
soccer people.
parents, yeah.
Don't we have an athletic program here with baseball and soccer, softball?
You mean the North Marion Youth Athletic?
Yeah,
Group? Yeah.
are they involved in this?
They're connected, but they're not running it. It's
You
not-
mean like the old boosters, like?
No.
Sure, I mean, it used to have one committee took care of
Boosters.
everything.
Do we have boosters anymore?
I do boosters.
Oh,
We're just do concession stands. and
Okay.
Scholarships.
Okay,
Yeah. So the group that's doing the soccer fields, they're actually, the plan is to hire, fundraise to get enough money to hire someone to apply for a grant to fund that.
Okay,
So they have a grant writer who's about, he or she, I can't remember, if it's a lady or
it
a guy.
never really matters.
Yeah. It's 90, I think it's a guy.
The person.
The person is about 95% of the team affected,
Okay.
so it's very, yeah.
So our softball field with the girls softball is run by one organization.
No,
softball is a OSAA
It's
sponsor.
an OSA.
high
Yeah.
school.
Do we generate any money for the school from the tournaments?
Yes, we do. Mhm.
Good,
Yeah, soccer gets some and we get 10% of it.
10%.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah, soccer, not soccer. Softball gets most of it to pay for the refs and all of that stuff, and then 10% of what they bring in comes back to the district.
okay. And my last thought is Portland's going to pre-kindergarten.
No, free preschool, you mean?
Free preschool.
Yes.
Are we have any plans for that?
We haven't talked about that, but the governor has put some money into early learning and we believe there'll be stuff coming our way. We don't know when that'll come.
So if that is a potential for us, we can have,
I'm sure we would jump on it.
Portland is doing it because Multnomah County has the levy to pay for it.
oh, they did.
Yes.
Is that a levy we could do? On a percentage basis, when I first moved out here, there was 2% Hispanics in our school. What kind of a percent now is there?
If you look at the K-12 altogether, it's about 60% Hispanic. If you go down to the lowest grades and start adding it up, it's 70% to 65%. This last graduating class is the last 50-50 class that we have.
Wow,
From that point on, there are more Latinx families than there are non-Latinx families.
yeah, I'd like the free preschool, pre-kindergarten for the Hispanic population. I think it would be one of the most beneficial things we could do.
I think, given what we've seen with kids coming back from COVID from every home, it's not just one group that needs preschool, which is the socialization piece. You know, the learning how to sit and take turns and put your hands on your lap and, not scream, I want my ice cream now. Not that our seniors are doing that. But the point is that you are correct that preschool is very, very important for all children and childcare, reliable childcare being available
Plus they
for
get
all
to eat.
children. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's a bigger issue. As far as what we can do right now, we can continue to advocate, which we are, Salem, to fund it. We have to have the money. We can't just produce a service. One, we barely have the staff to do what the state expects for all the students that we have in classroom. Now, if you add another 150 kids at year 3, 4, and 5, that's about, that's a little less than 500 kids. If you get it fully going, and
Yes.
where are you gonna put them? Where are you going to, I mean, it's a big issue. That you have to have the staff, and the class sizes need to be incredibly well with the preschool.
Yeah.
And it's just,
You need to build the room.
you need the rooms, you need the people, you need, yeah, so it's gonna take some time to do that, but I agree with you, it's a very important service to the.
Speaking for the Hispanic parents who have difficulty with English,
Mhm.
is this school ever considered having free classes for parents in the evening?
Yes, we talked about that as well.
'Cause, I mean, we started that, I'm sorry, I'm from Portland, 25 years, 30 years ago, but we started that years and years ago, and it was overrun with parents. I mean, we expected 20, we got 50.
Mhm.
So, and it was all free for the parents.
Yeah.
But I think it's time we really step up.
And that fits right in with our strategic plan of what we're trying to do. We know that for students to be successful, parents also have to be taken into consideration and be part of the work that we do. And providing opportunities to learn English, if that's what's needed, not just for Spanish speaking families, but now we have there's Ethiopian families moving into the area, and there's a variety of people. moving into the area. And it would be nice to have that available. We hope to get funding to have that occur. It's hard for our teachers to stay after school and do it because they have their own families to raise, and they also need a little rest. They can come back to school ready to go tomorrow. So it could be a private partner, public partnership, people getting together and making the plan. I know that Irma and the English Language Development Program and the Migrant Education Program are working, and they meet with parents monthly to provide services for them. And we have a counseling for Spanish-speaking families through a program called OYEN that has a counselor in our buildings to work with families and with students. So there are a lot of things that we are providing as we can. Yeah, and the county also provides us grants for other kinds of counselors. So we will take anybody's money and we'll do anything that we can get financial support and physical.
Well, on this page way back here, the state has a program for funding. It was page 2000.
There's a lot of them. The SIA Measure 98 or
Yeah.
SIA, one of those.
And that was 590,000.
That's Measure 98. Has three purposes, dropout prevention, graduation, and I can't remember the third.
And do we get a share of that 590?
That's ours.
Oh, we get 590.
590.
CTE.
Yeah,
is the
that's
third
CTE.
thing.
CTE, yeah, CTE, yeah. So, and that's mostly what we spend it on is our CTE teachers and their supplies and stuff.
Okay,
Yeah,
That's limited to students. You can only spend that on students.
correct. Correct. Richard or Christy, do you have any questions?
I did want to make sure all the budget committee members that aren't board members had an opportunity to ask questions first, if there's anybody else there that has anything.
I think they all have.
Page 35. Under that category of historical expenses by object, under the category of other, I understand 22 was like a COVID year, so it was, what kind of things I'm just curious, what kind of things do we put in other?
Well, other on the one that 2022 is when we went out for our second PERS UAL bond, and it was $15 million. So that's what that one is.
Okay.
So it, other can be a transfer, it can be, I have to think, fees for a bond, if you went out for a bond, I'd have to really dig.
Okay, I was just kind of curious.
Yeah.
All right.
Richard?
Yeah, thank you. You had mentioned that labor is like 79%, if I got the number right, of the budget. Could you help us understand kind of how that's trended over the last few years? Is that in the,
I think I can, if I can find that page quick enough for you. It's always been hovering around 80%. Sometimes it's more, it depends on what you have in your budget that year, because it's a percentage, you know, of the expenses. It's the overhead page, which must be about page 36. So in last year's budget, it was 80.94. But you can see in 21-22, it was only 45%, and that's because we had $15 million in other for the bond, for the Perjuel bond. So sometimes something big like that throws it way off. If you would take that out, you'd be back up there at that 80%. I would say that it's gone down a little bit in recent years because our substitute costs are not in that category per how you budget for the state. Substitutes costs we contract out for, they come out of a 300 or a purchase service, whereas salaries and benefits are 100s and 200s. So they're not up there anymore. So I believe, if I am remembering correctly, we were usually up in the 82%. But if you added that back in, the substitutes, you'd be close. It'd be very close to the same.
okay, great. Yeah, thank you. And then I thought I heard Ginger in her letter at the front end of the meeting mention that there were no dollars in the budget for curriculum adoption, but then I heard you mention that there is funding for the math.
She was reading about the general fund. So there were no dollars in the general fund for curriculum. But we are doing our curriculum adoptions through the SIA, the Student Investment Account.
Okay. And, you know, on the SIA, on the other funds, I mean, I think it's great that we're getting creative and using the dollars that we have available, but it seems to me that curriculum dollars, I mean, is pretty core to what we do here. And I guess I'm just questioning why we would not budget for that in the general fund and find other programs to put into, you know, other grant dollars.
Richard, we could switch. We could fund a person out of SIA and put the curriculum back in general fund. So we're still spending the money. SIA dollars are considered just as much a part of the general fund as any other, because that's how it's really funded. It looks at the same idea as a general fund to give you those dollars.
Yeah, fair enough. And, you know, I get that. But I guess it goes to another question, I think, about, you know, kind of these other grant dollars. And, you know, I'm just curious how stable or predictable those dollars have been, because, you know, there are a lot of things that we're funding through those dollars. And
Yeah, our
I've always had a little discomfort not knowing kind of how certain those sources of funds are going to be.
Our title grant funds have stayed pretty even throughout the years. They'll fluctuate by $30,000, usually up or down. IDEA is the same idea. Food service, pretty much their money goes by how much money the government says they'll pay us back per meal that we serve. So that's always taking care of itself. Then you have the student body accounts, which is a crapshoot depending on what parent group is fundraising that year. So, you know, you can just figure that one out, but you're always going to have your student body funds. The SIA money, I believe, is going to stay there. That was back in 2020 or 2019, 2020, I think. And that's the corporate activity tax. And, you know, once Oregon gets a tax in, they're not going to let that go, are they?
Yeah, I mean, but, you know, depending, I mean, it's dependent on corporate activity too, I suppose.
That's exactly right. And they had hoped that with that money that we would all be able to get everything we ever dreamed of for a school and pay for all the whatever and everything. But then then we were reduced on our general fund and all of our expenses were going up. So we basically moved staff from one fund over to the other to pay for things. And it was pretty much what most districts that I have spoken with did to it. I think that you could look at 251 and 100 together. And if you look at those as a whole, you could feel secure in what we're getting. Measure 98, it's been more even than any other of my grants. So I hear your concern. I don't feel nervous about it. The only ones that are going away are our ESSER funds, and we know that, and we're preparing for that.
Okay, so that's really the driver behind the comment that other funds are
Yes.
going down.
Yes, it's the ESSER, one ends September 30th, 2023, and one ends September 30th, 2024.
Okay, good. Yeah, thank you. And then I guess the last one is just, this just kind of overarching question about the budget, given that, our enrollment numbers continue to drop, our staffing costs continue to increase, our other funds, are relatively stable, but some of them are going away. So I guess it's just a question of like, are we on a sustainable trajectory here with our budget, I guess, in your mind, or how long can we continue with the spending levels that we have in the current budget without, additional sources of funds?
You always know we can make it.
And great, I think Bill's got a response, but I guess I'd be interested in your thoughts, Lynn.
Well, because of the way that we're funded state, and it depends on what the legislature does or doesn't. Really are held where they go with the money and how they fund it. Very understandable. It's biennial. They're putting money towards mental health issues, homelessness, those sorts of things. We as educators have the education K-12 can't expect to pay all the money. We have our other needs in the state. So it's understandable that we don't get a big piece. But where it'll land the next biennium, I don't know. We have an in the past, our board has taken down way to go for my comfort level, but it worked.
Hit your microphone. I lost your microphone there.
I feel like we can make it a good 2 years. After that, I have no guarantees for you.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I think we'd all probably appreciate the opportunity to see a little bit further down the road than a biennium, but that's just kind of the environment that we're.
Right. And years ago, Richard, I would budget out 5 years. Not once was I close on year 3, 4, or 5. Not once. So I gave that up.
Yeah, fair enough. Thank you.
Richard, I also want to add to, about your question. We can find ways to respond, to support our desire to make sure that we have enough operational funds to meet the goals that we've set. And we do that by looking at grade level enrollment and deciding if we have staffed it properly. For example, we're going to make some reductions, which we've talked about. My group does not know that. Well, we're making some reductions. And I have talked with the primary school staff and the association about, we have to make our staffing decisions based on the number of students that we have per grade level. And sometimes you have that number now, and sometimes you don't. You really get that on October 1st. So it may be that this year we make additional decisions on October 1st, which a lot of districts do.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Ginger. Sorry, Bill, was there something else you wanted to add also, just for color on that one, or?
I was just gonna say the most unstable fund in any market is the state school fund, which is debated every 2 years by the legislature. It's wild from the governor's budget to the chair's budget, the final budget, and that is the most unstable fund, which is our general fund. The other funds are actually more stable.
Christy, do you have anything?
Sorry, Christy, your microphone has gone out. We heard some tinging. Can you try again? I think I see the mute light on.
Can you hear me now?
Better.
Can you hear me?
Now not better. It was better for a minute, or not even a minute. Are you there again? Let's give it one more try, Christie.
I
Where
don't
you
have
go.
any questions.
Oh,
No
much better.
Thank
Whatever that change was, that fixed it.
I'm driving.
Okay. How about in the room again?
And Bill, we have to ask for public comments.
Yeah, I know. I'm just getting, making sure the debate process go.
So I was in the last soccer meeting and they were asking if we can help with the grant writer money. So that we can start.
We can talk with them later. Yeah, I mean, the idea is we would help if we can, but again, the idea is we have roofs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now until we find out,
And that's, they're moving along. I'm not sure when that'll go out. My guess is they'll put that out on the street somewhere.
because we have a meeting on Wednesday also. Oh, no, yeah, Wednesday, the 18th.
Yeah, I don't have an answer right now.
Nor do we have any information. I mean, that's just an open question.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, but
We
I
need
mean,
a
if
lot more
there's like a possibility, I can say, yeah, there's a possibility.
I think there's a possibility, but I don't think we know.
We'd have to have a lot more information.
Yeah.
To see if it meets all the rules. Right.
I would say it's very soon. Like 5%.
And I think you guys had like a couple questions on about bathrooms, so. I was not on that,
For the, you mean for the soccer field?
yes.
Okay, practice field, yeah.
Right, so-
Well, we talked about doing porta potties, right?
Well, I don't know what the questions, because I was not in that.
Yeah, it was just an open planning. General discussion, no ideas, just people sharing their thoughts. Is all it was. But I'm very sure, not, but 99.9% sure we cannot just give school money to a private organization of people. That's not gonna happen.
I think the restriction
So
on
that's,
funding
that will definitely never.
If that,
So,
if that, then it would become our project.
yeah, we'd have to take it over, which would mean a major commitment, which would be, you
Okay,
know,
so, yeah, I'll pass that.
yeah. Anything else before I move on? All right, 2E is public comment. Diane, has anybody signed up? I don't see anybody online. There's no sign up, so we'll move past public comment and go to 2F. Announce notice of next budget committee meeting, assuming we need one. We will be this Thursday. If we don't pass, the committee here tonight doesn't pass this budget as presented. So now we'll just come back to that actually, we'll go to 2G, which is the approve the proposed budget as presented. If someone would like to read that motion, or have any more discussion, we're at 2G. There's a proposed language there.
Okay. Go ahead, I'll second you.
I move that we approve the North Marion School District proposed 2023-24 budget in the amount of $40,343,337 as presented.
And I will second.
All right, I have a motion and a second on approving the proposed budget by staff tonight. Open for discussion and last minute statements. If not, we'll call for a vote. All right, since we're all a thing and 2 online, we'll just call for a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. All right, budget is approved unanimously, which then rolls me back to the previous item, which is that we will not be having a budget meeting this Thursday, as we've just approved the budget to go back to the school board for the June meeting.
I'm gonna move that
Right.
for next year, Bill.
Okay. 2H, we need to pass a resolution here to just make it official for taxing purposes. This is to give to the Marion County Tax Assessor. So this is again, well written down. So if somebody wants to make a motion on 2H, please read on.
Very well. Okay. Be it resolved that the budget committee of the North Marion School District 15 hereby imposes the tax provided for in the approved budget at the district's permanent rate of $3.33 per thousand. Second.
Yeah, that's good.
Of assessed value for operations in the amount of $2,246,489 for debt services on general obligation bonds. And that these taxes are hereby imposed and categorized for tax year 2023-2024 upon the assessed value of all taxable property within the district.
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion and a second for imposing taxes on real estate property in our district as required to meet our district bond obligations. Any discussions? If not, I'll call for a voice vote again. All in favor of the resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, say nay. Resolution also passes as proposed. Make your checks out at the with that said, I'll just open the floor for any final comments. We're at the end of the meeting. Any?
Bill, this is Rich. I just wanted to take a minute to say thanks to all of the budget committee members for making the time to support this work, and many thanks to Linda and all the others that contributed to putting this budget package together. Much appreciated.
And also point out that it's difficult this year for budgeting as we're coming out of COVID and we have a lot of changes going on and monies are coming, some monies are going. And the legislators a mess. I can officially say that, and we're being recorded. I will.
Are we giving Linda an excuse? Is that-
So, yeah, it is the work. So that takes us to item 3, adjournment. Thank you, everybody, for participating. See you board in June at the next meeting.
Thank you, everyone. Much appreciated. This is a pretty short meeting.